Hey everyone, how's it going today? So what we're going to be making here is a nice little chat bot with an AI. So if we say something like hello, it will respond with how are you? I'll say I am good. How are you? It says I'm fine, thanks for asking. We could ask it other questions too. What is your name? I don't know. Oh, that's rough. Alright, let's see. What is your favorite color? My favorite color is blue. Blue is a very pretty color. Alright, so now that you get the gist of it, this is the app that we're going to be creating. If this seems interesting, stick along and see how it's made. And if you, at any point in the video, find it to be helpful or interesting, please leave a thumbs up. Okay, so hopping right into it, first thing we want to do is go to our desired directory, make a new directory. We're going to call this chatbot. Inside of chatbot, we're going to make two directories. One is going to be called client, and the other one is going to be called server. We're going to open this up in our text editor. Alright, inside of our text editor, let's open up a terminal. We're going to want to have two terminals here. One of these we're going to cd into client, and we're going to say Vue create period generate project in current directory, yes. I'm going to go down one and select Vue 3. That's going to take a little while. While that's happening, we're going to cd into server over here. We're going to say npm I, and we're going to install cleaver-bot-free, express, and cores, -- save. Alright, now we're going to add a new file here. We're going to call this app.js. Put that inside of our server. First thing we're going to want to do is require some things. Let's say const cleaverbot equals require cleaver-bot-free, express equals require express, app equals express, cores equals require cores. Alright, that should be all the variables that we need to declare here. Next we can say app.use. We're going to want to use cores, app.use express.url encode extended : true. App.use express.json. Alright, now we can start building our app. So we're going to have one post route here. Actually, before we put that in the very bottom, let's say app.listen 8000 request response console.log running. We'll do that just to make sure that it's working. Node app.js, and it's running. Okay, so far so good. Alright, let's make our one post route. So what we're going to say here is app.post. Let's call our route chat. An async function here, which is going to be, of course, request and response. And now is where things get interesting. So what are we going to want from this app? What are we going to want to post to this route? Well, we're going to want to post some kind of message, right? So let's say here const message equals request.body. Now this isn't created yet, but hypothetically speaking, you know, in the front end, we'll be sending a message, and it will be called message. So this will be how we get it. So let's get the message, and then let's say const response equals await cleaver-bot. We're going to pass it that message, and the response is what we get back. So what we can do now once we get that is we can say res.json and simply just send the response back. Response colon message. Or sorry, response colon response. And it's that simple. That is going to be all of the Node.js that we need to code. Just these 19 lines. Next up, let's hop into our client. Let's go into app.vue. All right, now real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just empty this out. We don't need any components. We don't need the default styling. Now, before we really get into the code, what we're going to want to do is make sure that our post route is working. So let's say npm I Axios, and then npm run serve. This is going to give me an error because there's no div, so let's just put a div in here. While that's loading, let's say import Axios from Axios. Then let's say axios.post. This is going to be http colon 8000 dash chat. We're going to want to pass some data. And then what we're going to want to do is take the res and console log res.data. Okay, so let's make the data here const data equals, it's going to equal an object, message colon hello. Let's just say that. Let's say npm or node app.js, get our server up and running, and then let's visit our site. So we have the client here. Let's go into our console. Promise request failed with status code 404. Duh, I'm such an idiot. It's http colon dash dash localhost colon 8000. Okay, now let's refresh that. http localhost 8000 dash chat 404 not found. This is just supposed to be dash chat like this. And there we go. A few things we had to fix, but there's our response. It says, how are you? Let's refresh it again, see if we get something else. We get, who are you this time? So very cool. That is the AI up and running. We had to, again, get rid of the period here. I should not have put that there. That was my mistake. And we also had to fix our thing here. All right, what we can do now is we can get rid of all this here. That was really just to test it, make sure that it was working. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get our template up and running. I'm going to put all of our HTML and all of our CSS in, and I'm just going to kind of rush through that. I'll explain the parts where it's important, but for the most part, it's not. JavaScript is the real bread and butter of this project. So what do we have here? We're going to have a div ID equals chat container. Inside of this, we're going to have three divs. One is going to be the chat header. One is going to be chat body. And one is going to be chat footer. Alright, so let's start with the header. What this is going to have in it is just a simple header 4, and that header 4 is going to say bot, chat body. What we're going to have here is a div, class equals messages, and what we're going to say here is v4 message in messages, and then we're going to say colon key equals message dot id. This is going to loop through all of the messages here. So for each one of these messages, for each individual message, we're going to want to have a div that has a class equal to message row. Now here's the trick. We want to be able to differentiate if it's a user or a bot. So let's say user, and then let's say vif equals message id %2 or modulus 2 double equals 0. So what this is saying here is if it's a modulus of 2, so basically what this is going to do is only 0 and things that are multiplications of 2, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on and so forth, will be given the title user. So the first one, and then the third one. I'm assuming here, of course, the ID starts at 0. So the first one being 0, boom, third one being 2, so on and so forth. That's how we're going to be able to do this, so that's every other one. Because what we're going to say down here is div class equals message row bot. And we're going to say v else. So else we do this. Alright, what else we're going to need is a div. Let's give it a class equal to message user. And then of course we're going to need to give it a p tag. And here we're going to say message. This is going to display our actual message. Then we're going to do the same thing for inside of here, but we're going to change that user to bot. And that should be good for that. Lastly, we have to do the footer. This is where we're going to have the actual ability to type and send a message. So we're going to make a form. We're going to say @submit prevent, because we want to prevent the default. We don't want it to submit like an actual form. So we're going to call this function instead called sendMessage. Now obviously we haven't created this function and we haven't created the message variables yet. What did I do wrong? I didn't close the form. Duh. There we go. Alright, inside of this form, what we're going to have is 2 inputs. One is going to be a vModel. Now vModels, they just keep track of everything. And what this is going to do is it's going to keep track of what's typed, and it's going to store it in a variable that we're going to create later called message content using a ref. Let's also give it an ID equal to createMessage. Another input, this is just going to be of type submit. You could also do a submit button if you prefer that. Either one's fine. Alright, now we're going to type the styles. So I am actually just going to copy and paste the style. I'm not going to type it all out. I'll leave it up on the screen for a minute so that you can read it all, or pause it if you want to copy it all down, but this will also be available on my GitHub. The point of this is not a CSS tutorial, so I don't feel it's necessary for me to waste everybody's time by hand typing this all out, because it's really not important to it. But yeah, like I said, this will be available on my GitHub, so you can just check the link in the description if you want to copy and paste that into your own project or create your own CSS. It's not hard to do. All right, now's the fun part. Now we're going to delve into the JavaScript. So I should have left this import statement, but import Axios from Axios. This is Vue 3, so everything is going to be done inside of this setup function. We also actually need to import bracket ref from Vue. Alright, so first things first, let's declare all the variables that we know we're going to need based on this HTML, because there are quite a few, right? We need to say const messages. That's going to be equal to a ref of type array. What else do we have? We also have message content. That's going to be equal to a ref again. This one's going to be a string. And I think that's it. We also need a function sendMessage. That's also something we need. And then we need to make sure that we return all of these. So we're going to return messages, message content, and sendMessage. All right, that should be good. What else are we going to want? We're going to want a few more functions. So this function sends the message on form submit. We're going to need to create a message. So create a message function create message, which is going to take in a message, and we're also going to need an async function. Let's call this getResponse. That's also going to take in a message. Okay, where do we start here? I guess we'll start with the form submission. If, make sure it's not empty, message content equals a blank string, we'll just return. And sorry, we actually want message content at value because it's a ref. So we need to get the value of it. Let's say here console log message content. And I'd love to say open up our Vue app, but it's going to give us a bunch of errors just because, well, we can fluff it out real quick. It's going to give us a lot of errors because we have unused stuff here. But now I think everything should be in use. Oh, what a jack. Okay, so you don't have to copy this. I'm just going to do this real quick just to make sure that we are on track. Okay, boom. So here we go. We have the basic bot messaging interface here. Looks a lot better on smaller screens. Looks kind of crappy on a big screen. All right, so let's go into our console and make sure this is working. Let's say test, submit. And we get the ref value test, tests. We get tests. Okay, so the console log and the ref is working. So far, so good. I'm going to remove all of this obnoxious stuff that I had to do. And we're going to continue on with the code now that we know that that's working. So what are we going to want to do here? We're going to want to create a message, and what we're going to pass is message content dot value. We're also going to want to get a response and pass message content dot value. So what should we start with? Let's start with this because it's called first, right? Create a message. Actually, let's start with getResponse. Okay, so for getResponse, what we're going to want to say here, let's call this post data. Just like we did earlier on, we're going to set that equal to messages, message, message. Next, we're going to say const data. We can write this a little differently now that we're inside of an async function. Set it equal to await axios.post. For best practice here, you'd really want to wrap this in a try catch and have a whole thing set up in case it catches an error. I'm not going to do that just to keep it quick, but I just want to let you all know that's what you really should do in an app like this if you were going to release it publicly. Let's do the URL right this time. http://localhost:800 8000-chat. All right, that looks good. Next thing that we can do is pass the post data. And then what we're going to do is we're going to want to grab our response. Let's see what we name this. So we named our response, which makes it nice and easy. Response equals data. Let's console log response. And then let's say create message with response. And inside of here, let's just console log message. All right. Now let's clear this console. Test, submit. Okay, nice. It says I am testing you. Perfect. So we are getting a response back. That is all working good, and it says it twice because we're also console logging a message here. So everything seems to be in order. Lastly, we just have to create the message. Let's get rid of our console log to clean up the code a little bit. Say here let ID equal 0. Now what we want to do with this ID is we want to set it equal to one more than the most recent message. It's going to default to 0, right, because we want to start it at 0. But if there is already a message in there, we want it to be +1 to that ID. You can do that by saying if messages dot value, and then we're going to say here messages dot value dot length -1. So if we have one of these, then what we're going to do is copy all of this and say ID equals all of this dot ID +1. And it should be that simple. Then we can say messages dot value dot push, and we're going to push a fresh object, which will have an ID equal to ID, and a message equal to message. Let me just make sure that we did name it. Yeah, message dot message. Okay, awesome. So that should work. Now let's give it some testing. Test, submit. Okay, I know exactly why that doesn't work, because I did not put this inside of brackets. Sorry about that. It's been a little while since I've used Vue. All right. Boom. Now we have test. Yes, this is a test. Hello. What is your name? One last thing I'm going to do to make this function a little more smooth is get rid of the message content, and I'm going to get rid of it after a message is created. So once a message is created, we're going to say message content, Actually, no, we should really only be doing this after sendMessage. Message content dot value equals a blank string. And that should automatically clear it out for us. So let's test it out. Let's go into the bot. Let's say hello. It says, how are you? I am good. How are you? It says, I am fine, thank you. What is your name? You don't need to know. All right. What is your favorite color? My favorite. Very interesting. All right, that's going to be the end of this video. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. It means a lot to me. And if you want to see more content just like this, hit that subscribe button. I make tutorials for front end, back end, full stack development. I even do a little bit of game development. So if you like the way that my videos, please subscribe and you'll get to see more content just like it. I hope you have a great day. Take it easy.